Hey 8th graders, happy Thursday! Welcome to another edition and let's find another equation that we can graph a line from. Remember I told you guys at the beginning of this chapter you were going to be learning a bunch of different equations that you can use to graph a line. The whole thing is what we're doing. It's graphing from a bunch of different equations. And so this lesson, what we're going to be learning about is standard form. It's a different equation that you can use to find points to graph a line. Standard form. Welcome. Although, in all funniness of math, standard form's not even the standard form used to graph usually. Usually you graph from the slope-intercept form, the y equals mx plus b. So, funny. This is, though, the form that you can use to get between most of the other equations that we've learned, is you can always get things back into standard form and go from there. So that's mostly why it's called standard form, is this is kind of your midpoint, your, I don't know, it's like Switzerland. It's the most neutral of all forms that you can go between all of them. It's the go-between. So it's ax plus by equals c. Ax by the c. It's always how I remembered it. An ax by the c. Or you can just remember ax plus by equals c. That's fine too. Important to note, a, b, and c are just variables to represent a number that will be in an equation. So let's just jump right into it, huh? One important note. A and B cannot be equal to 0. In standard form, A and B, your numbers, A and B, whatever number you have in for them, it cannot be equal to 0. Otherwise, it doesn't work and it won't graph. A and B cannot be 0. So what would this look like? What would this standard form look like in an equation? It looks something like this. Negative 2x plus 3y equals negative 6. And so now you're probably thinking to yourself, okay, Miss Chauncey, how do I graph for this? How do I graph standard form? You get it in the slope-intercept form. You have to solve for y and get this equation in slope-intercept form to graph. So how do you solve for y? First thing we need to do is we need to get y by itself, right? Isolate your variable. Looks like we're subtracting 2x, so we add 2x, 3y equals 2x minus 6. Y still is not by itself. We need to divide by 3 to get y by itself. Remember, divide for 3. Y is equal to 2 over 3x minus 3 divided by 6. 6 divided by 3 is 2. So this is what our equation would look like in slope-intercept form. We went from negative 2x plus 3y equals negative 6, and we solved for y to get y equals 2 over 3x minus 2. And now we can graph, because it should look like everything that we did yesterday. We know the slope, 2 over 3. We know the y-intercept, negative 2, which is 0, negative 2. And we graph. We go negative 1, 2. Now we can go up 1, 2 over 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. And draw a more straight line than Miss Chauncey, please. Actually get your point in your line. Yikes. There's your line for both y equals negative 2x minus 2 and negative 2x plus 3 equals negative 6. This equation and this equation both represent this graph right here. Both equations represent the graph. Let's try another. X plus y equals negative 2. Okay, we need to solve for y. So how do we do that? What's happening? What is this x doing on this side? It's adding. So we subtract x, y equals negative x minus 2. Y equals negative x minus 2. So we need to find our slope and our slope and our y-intercept. Slope, my slope would be, right, minus 2, which would give me the points 0, 2. And my y-intercept would be negative 2, giving me the points 0, negative 2. My slope, there's a negative in front of my y. It's negative 1 over 1. Remember, if you don't have a number in front of your variable, your slope, your number in front of your variable, if you have no number written in front of your variable, the number is 1, because you have just one of them. So if you have no number written in front of your variable, you can know that is 1. So, how do I graph this? Negative 1, 2, 0. Now I can go down 1 to the left 1. I can go up 1 or down 1 to the right 1, up 1 to the left 1. I'll do that again for kicks and giggles. And there we go. There's my line for this is my graph for the equation y equals negative x minus 2. Also my graph for the equation x plus y equals negative 2. So if they asked you to find the equation for a graph and didn't specify what form they wanted in, both of these forms would be correct. But you can go from slope-intercept form to standard form. You can go from this. How would you go to standard form? You need to get your whole number on its own side of the equal sign. So you would, x is being subtracted, so if we had y equals negative x minus 2, and they said take this equation in slope form and put it in standard form. You know that standard form is ax plus by equals c. So your x and your y need to be on one side of the equal sign, your whole number on the other side of the equal sign. So you would add x, x plus y equals negative 2. You can get an equation from slope-intercept form into standard form. Okay, you can also graph using your x and y intercepts. You can graph using your x and y intercepts. So let's look at the equation. X plus 3y equals negative 3. X plus 3y equals negative 3. So to graph using the intercepts, first you need to find each intercept. You need to find the x-intercept and you need to find the y-intercept. So let's find the x-intercept first. I'm going to write this over here. X-intercept. Remember our conversation from yesterday, the x-intercept is where y is equal to 0. So to solve for x, you can plug a 0 in for y because you know y is 0. The x-intercept is where y is 0. So to find the x-intercept, you can plug in 0 for y because you know y is 0. So you do x plus 3 times 0 equals negative 3, and you solve for x. Do your simple order of operations to solve for x. So how would you do this? X would give me 3 plus 0, or 3 times 0, 3 times 0 is 0. You lucked out. X is negative 3. So my x-intercept is negative 3, 0. Y-intercept. My y-intercept is where my x is 0, remember? Y-intercept is where x is 0 and my line crosses the y-axis. So to find my y-intercept, I can plug 0 in for x because I know that 0 is x. I know x is 0. So 0 is equal to 0 plus 3y equals negative 3. And then I can divide by 3, and y equals -1. So my y-intercept is -1. Excuse me, 8th graders, 0. 0, -1. And now I can use these 2 points to find my slope. And then I can graph. It's a little more work this way, but you just wanted to, the book and I both want to show you that there are various ways to do this. So now I can find my slope. So I'm going to use this as x2 and y2 and use this as x1 comma y1. I just want to write that down so I remember. Remember the equation for slope is m is equal to your change in y's, y2 minus y1, over your change in x's, x2 minus x1. Remember, rise over run. Y's over x's. So, okay, I said this one I wanted to be y2, so this would be 0 minus a -1 over -3 minus 0. See how I got that? I just plugged them in. I decided I wanted this one to be y2, x2. So I have 0, and then my y1, and then my x2, my x1. It really doesn't matter which one you choose. I just decided to make this one x2. This one x2 and y2. Doesn't really matter though. As long as you are watching your signs and making sure you're not missing your negatives, and you're taking your working hard in your subtraction. So 0 minus a negative is plus a positive. So this is 1 over -3 minus 0 is -3. So my slope is 1 over -3. And I have 2 points. See those 2 points, remember? And now I can graph. So let's start with my x-intercept is -3 and 0. And my y-intercept is 0, -1. Yes. And then we go up or down 1, left or right 3. So you can tell that from here that we did that, right? We went up 1 to the left 3. We also went down 1 to the right 3. Same thing. Down 1 to the right 3. Up 1, 3. There's my line. So you can graph by standard form either by finding your x and y intercepts and then solving for them and plugging in 0, solving for them and finding your y. Or you also could have taken this, let's see if I can have more room on my whiteboard, x plus 3y equals -3. You also could have solved this for slope-intercept form by subtracting x and have 3y equals -x minus 3, divide by 3, divide by 3, y is equal to -1/3 x minus 3. Does it check out? Minus 3, minus 1, if I did my math right, there we go. Does it check out? -1, -1, -1/3, -1/3. It checks out. The same thing. But make sure you watch in your book and in your workbook, it'll ask you to do it in different ways, and make sure that you're doing it in the ways in which it's asking you to do. Either standard form and ax by the c, or slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b.